Yeah.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy back with another reaction video, and I'll be reacting to SCP-2191 Dracula Factory Object Class KETER Sarkic SCP. Now, this is a request from Alpha Shocker, another one. What was I about to say? Oh yeah, this is also from the channel Vulcan. So I'll put a link in the description down below so you go check it out yourself. I think I've not actually watched this. I've heard of this, but I never read about it or watched it because I'm pretty sure I think I remember something called the Dracula Factory. But anyway, let's just get into this because I saw you posted this, or you requested this. And it's funny because I was sitting on my day off when you requested this. And I was like, maybe I should look at some SCP stuff because I got some SCP videos on my computer that I've had on my computer for like probably over a year now. Maybe not. Yeah, some of them I think over a year. Because they were on my laptop, then I transferred them over to my desktop when I bought this some months ago. And keep saying I'm gonna look at, haven't looked at, kind of got away from looking at a lot of like YouTube videos because I had reacted to so many TV shows, and it takes a lot longer to edit them because those get claimed quick, like or blocked on YouTube. So you had to edit them just right to try to get. I try to get as much of the content as I can. and walk that line so it doesn't get claimed, but it could get claimed if someone does like a manual review or something. They could be like, oh, I think you showed a little bit too much, but I walked that line, so it takes me a lot longer to edit those, and so I've been trying to get on those because I've watched probably like 4 shows that I haven't finished editing, like the entire season, and haven't even started editing some more. Like I've been watching Lucifer, haven't edited or uploaded one of those episodes in like 6 months, maybe like 4 or 5 months, something like that. But could pay somebody to do it. I'm like, pay somebody to do it when I can do it myself, at least right now. But anyway, damn it, curse keep going away. All right, here we.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Shit.
My name is Dr. Miller, and the SCP we're going to be studying today is SCP-2191. Object Class, KETER, formerly Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. The Foundation is to maintain surveillance operations, but is otherwise not to directly interfere with SCP-2191 or the ritual practices of communities within the vicinity of the Hoya Forest. Exploration of SCP-2191 is prohibited outside of remotely controlled drones. Foundation operatives
don't go over there.
Maintain the facade of forest rangers in the employ of the Romanian government. In the event of a SCP-2191 security breach by civilians or hostile entities, lethal force is authorized. Description: SCP-2191 is a temple complex located within the dense Hoya Forest of Romania.
Of course, it's in Romania.
A close resemblance to Eastern Orthodox monasteries commonly found in the region. This is suspected to have been a deliberate effort to disguise the true nature of SCP-2191. Thracian and Dacian architecture have both been discovered in the lower levels of the temple complex, and artifacts belonging to the Cucuteni Tripillian culture have been recovered from the system of tunnels that makes up the lowest known portion of SCP-2191.
I looked that up to see if that's an actual real thing.
SCP-2191 are not thought to have formed naturally and were likely constructed circa 4800 to 3000 BC.
Damn.
SCP-2191 is inhabited by a population of organisms classified as SCP-2191-1. Instances of SCP-2191-1 are considered genetically human, but have undergone several significant, seemingly fatal mutations. SCP-2191-1 lack all major internal organs with the exception of lungs, heart, and brainstem.
They're like, that's all we
The
need.
outer epidermis lacks pigmentation and displays a condition resembling cracked porcelain, possibly related to Harlequin syndrome. Entities appear androgynous.
Harlequin syndrome. What?
Secondary sex
That sounds
characteristics. Their regressed eyes are covered by a layer of skin, rendering them mostly blind, but still able to react to light, universally displaying aversion to wavelengths of greater than 100 nanometers. Further deviations from baseline Homo sapiens include especially flat, upturned noses and funnel-shaped ears.
And they really just turned into a bat.
To their dependency on olfactory and auditory perception. SCP-2191-1 do not appear to communicate via language. The only sound produced being a persistent clicking of the tongue, speculated to be a form of echolocation.
That could be creepy, clicking until you just, if you go in a dark place and you just, like, well, that sound more like people make fun of Africa. They're like, I'm trying to think of, kind of like, have you ever seen that movie Mimic? It kind of reminds me like that one, like, and the way they was talking, and the little boy started hitting his spoons to try to like figure out what they were saying, and they didn't kill him, at least right away, but later on they was like, fuck it, we about to, because they ate people, so which is interesting. I was like, why didn't they kill him? But they eat. I might have to watch that. I was thinking about reacting to that like a while ago, but I might have to react to that. That was actually a really good movie. I think they make a sequel to that. But anyway, so these basically a bunch of Morbius vampires where he had the upturned nose. His ears get bigger. I don't think his ears get quite the big what they're showing a picture here. He still had eyes. He didn't get skin over most of them. But it makes sense. They like, if you just drink blood, like, what do you need really with a digestive system? Like, you know, your body operating like a human would by just drinking blood. They tell it, I've had a doctor tell me that shouldn't, just like people who just try to liquefy all their food, that you shouldn't do that with all your food because you can be losing like a lot of nutrition because of that. But yeah, anyway, let's get back.
SCP-2191 do not readily appear to undergo senescence and have not aged since containment. Further analysis has revealed an abnormally slow metabolism. SCP-2191-1 instances are not believed to be biologically immortal, but have a significantly decreased rate of necrosis.
Oh, okay, so they just age slowly.
SCP-2191-2 refers to a collective of vermiform organisms. These organisms vary in size, form, and purpose, and are accordingly classified SCP-2191-2A, 2B, and 2C.
I always like that with vampire lore, where, I mean, their immortality is fine, but I just find it interesting when they do things like, oh, they do actually age. They just age like this. They age much slower than normal humans. Or they'll, if they don't drink blood, the blood like rejuvenates them. So they'll pretty much, as long as they keep drinking blood, I remember I was watching something a long time ago. It was some real obscure, I could tell it was a movie that was in another language, but it was been voiced over. And the vampires were like they when they drink blood, they get rejuvenated. So they pretty much had to drink blood to maintain their youth. Like kind of like what people say about Elizabeth Bathory. Like she bled and she bathed in young girls' blood to maintain. She think that was maintaining like her youth or her skin or some shit, like some skin treatment. Hell of a skin treatment. I need a whole bathtub full of young virgin girls' blood. But it was like that, and then I remember later on they found out that the vampires, if they didn't drink blood, they just aged like I guess a normal person, and then died, which was interesting. Cause like so they don't have to eat anything, but I do remember later on in that movie they could eat like food, but it wasn't. They would always be like malnourished, so they were always weaker than they would be if they drank blood. Like so, they were always like they would look visibly weak, be fatigued and stuff like that. So when they drank blood, it was like they come to life, but then they would age like a normal person. And even when they died, because it was somewhere that a guy was in they dug up a coffin. I think it was somebody's friend. I can't. Damn, it was a while ago seen it. But he dug up a coffin. Person's body was in it, and even his body was like really slowly decomposing. He had died. Him been dead for a while. They poured like it wasn't like you see a Dracula like a maybe like a pint of blood. It was like they just threw like a bucket of paste blood. I guess it was paste blood. They didn't show where it came from, but it's a bucket of blood just in the coffin. And it's like it was funny because when they threw it on it, you just see they start showing the body like slowly coming back and it started going real fast, like it was just sucking up all the blood. And his body was getting rejuvenated and came back to life. They also showed someone got thrown. And like they threw this vampires also dead. And they've been dead much longer. Where it was mostly a skeleton with a little bit of meat. So that apparently they've been dead for like a couple hundred years. So it took a couple hundred years for their body to get to that point. And they just threw his body in like a pool of blood. And it was kind of cool because as soon as his body hit, they showed like a person like jumped out, like the person jumped out. The person was like he was like that. It was kind of cool. I'm at the. It was so. It was something that you would see like in like a bargain bin, and it's like a movie. Well, it probably I don't even think it had a DVD release. And when I saw it, it was Wait, did it have a DVD release? Because it was on somebody had like on VHS. And that's why I saw it. So I don't know. My cousin had on VHS. I was like, somebody, my cousin.
Anyway. C. Genetic analysis of SCP-2191-2 show close relation with fellow subgroups, their most recent common ancestors being Homo sapiens. It has been speculated that SCP-2191-2 did not naturally evolve on their own, but their true origin remains
They've
unknown.
been genetically engineered.
SCP-2191-2A superficially resembles
Wonder can they turn humans into vampires?
Lamprey, but whose internal structure more closely resemble Hirudinea,
leeches.
Each SCP-2191-1 has a SCP-2191-2A instance within their abdomen, primarily located where the stomach and large intestines would exist. SCP-2191-2B are an infestation of vermiform organisms that live throughout the hollow walls of SCP-2191. SCP-2191 appears to have been constructed with a system of channels through which SCP-2191-2B travel. These thin, long organisms will enter SCP-2191-1 orifices primarily via the mouth or rectum, but do not appear to cause harm or discomfort to their hosts. SCP-2191-2
How does that not cause discomfort?
To redistribute nutrients throughout
Wait. How long organism will enter SCP-2191-1. Orifice is primarily via the mouth or rectum, but it does not appear to cause harm or discomfort to their host. How does not? Wait, okay, wait a minute. Travel these. Okay, so, okay. I was like, how does that not cause discomfort? It goes into the orifices, but it doesn't cause any discomfort. At least he didn't say, oh, it's pleasurable.
SCP-2191, extracted from any SCP-2191-1 which have recently fed. SCP-2191-2C, like 2B, inhabit the interior architecture of SCP-2191. These tendril-like appendages are composed primarily of neurons and attached to SCP-2191-1 at the base of the spine while inactive. Only when attached to SCP-2191-2C do SCP-2191-1 display behavior resembling that of a sapient organism, including posturing suggestive of prayer. SCP-2191-1 are considered inactive while connected to SCP-2191-2C. During an active state, SCP-2191-1 entities will leave SCP-2191 and aggressively hunt for living humans, ignoring non-human animals and deceased individuals. Active states do not occur simultaneously among SCP-2191-1, although an active state will always occur between dusk and dawn, nor do they hunt as a pack, choosing to spread throughout the forest. A paralytic agent is employed to disable their prey, injected via venom-delivering barbs located in the lower carpals of both hands. When prey have been successfully incapacitated, SCP-2191...
I was thinking about Blade 2, the what they call them, Reapers, I think. Where they had a fang on the side of their mouth that inject like a neurotoxin. They call it that paralyzes the victims while they're feeding. And then what's the name else? Remember the old 90s Spider-Man cartoon when they had Morbius on there? And of course they couldn't have a vampire sinking his teeth into somebody's neck and showing blood, so he had like suckers like on his hands. And I remember thinking when I was a kid, I thought that was disgusting. Cause I was like, cause it would show them and they'd be like moving like mouths. And all he had to do was just have skin on skin contact, and he would grab it, and then it would just suck somehow through the skin. And I was like, damn, them some powerful suckers to suck the blood through the skin like that without. It's not like they had teeth or I don't know, maybe it has something sharp in it, like an octopus where they have those hooks. Octopus or squid, whatever one had like hooks inside the little suckers. And then hook on like and draw blood. But it made me think of that because the way those people use that, like as soon as he would start, like he would touch them and start drinking their blood, they instantly just fall like paralyzed. And like I was like, damn, how much blood are they losing per second? Like how is he leaving any of these people alive? Because he didn't kill anybody. They would all just be, really low on blood. But anyway.
-1 will open its mouth and widen its throat, unhinging its jaw in the process. SCP-2191-2A will then emerge from SCP-2191-1's interior cavity, initiating the feeding process by latching to the victim's neck via a toothed, funnel-like sucking mouth. SCP-2191-2A will first inject the body with digestive enzymes, liquidizing organ, muscle, and bone alike before consuming the resultant fluids. This process can last anywhere from 20 to 50 minutes, depending on the size of the prey.
So Although
known
kills
to those
people
living in the vicinity of the Hoya Forest, SCP-2191 was not recognized by the Foundation as an anomaly until August 1916, after the unexplained disappearance of 244 members of the Austro-Hungarian First Army during the Battle of Transylvania. Due to the First World War, operations to contain the threat did not begin until early 1919. Without a source of food, SCP-2191-1 entities appeared to enter a dormant state as of December 1924. Several incidents occurring between 1932 and
So they don't
1977
venture out.
would result
They
in the
just
discovery
go
of
into hibernation.
SCP-2191-3. 26th of September 1932, Greece. The Erissos earthquake devastates the Halkidiki Peninsula and results in 491 reported casualties. 126 individuals were unaccounted for, but the event was ultimately deemed non-anomalous. A connection to SCP-2191 established years later. December 26, 1939, Turkey. The Erzincan earthquake results in the deaths of approximately 33,000 people.
Damn, what?
Locals report a great serpent rising from the ground at the onset of the earthquake. The Foundation begins to investigate the region. November 10th, 1940, Romania.
A lot of earthquakes.
An earthquake strikes Vrancia. Casualties are low.
Making me think this is not
Civilians
just
report
a
vampire
natural
attacks in the wake of the
earthquake.
disaster. Media outlets publicly dismissing the claim as superstition. March 18th, 1953, Turkey. The Yenisganen earthquake causes widespread damage, killing over 1,000 people. Several survivors report seeing the arm of an octopus rupture from the earth. Civilians report pale men attacking survivors in the night, reports ceasing after approximately 1 month after the disaster. July 26, 1963, Macedonia. The Skopje earthquake kills over 1,000 people and renders 200,000 homeless. Approximately 500 would go missing in wake of the disaster. Reports of pale men in the night.
Like people like, oh, this people keep saying this is
March 4th,
superstition. Like people
1977.
seem to keep telling the same exact
Romania.
story every time there's a damn
The
earthquake.
Vrancia earthquake kills over
It
1,500.
always follows an earthquake.
However, only 800 bodies are accounted for. Reports of pale men and tendrils pulling victims beneath the ground. Panic spreads throughout the region. Foundation operatives are able to confirm a connection to SCP-2191.
Oh, finally, shit. Taking out damn time.
SCP-2191-3 is an organism whose core is located
It was that
deep beneath
1977?
SCP-2191. Its true size has proven difficult, if not entirely impossible, to measure, but root-like appendages extend throughout an area of approximately 660,000 square kilometers.
Damn.
SCP-2191-3 secretes a highly corrosive substance which is employed in the creation of tunnels throughout the Balkan Peninsula. SCP-2191-3
It's like a
is
weed
sapient
or some shit.
and exerts control over SCP-2191-1 and SCP-2191-2 organisms via physical interaction with SCP-2191-2C and through the release of complex pheromones. SCP-2191-1 entities through the use of SCP-2191-2A and 2B act as feeder drones
Okay, that's thinking
for
that's what this was.
SCP-2191-3. It has since been
Okay, so I guess it's some type of creature in the building that shoots out tendrils and pulls people in and feeds off it, but it also has these, like, I guess, vampiric type creatures that go out and liquefy people's insides and drink all the inside liquid and takes it back and gives it to, I guess, the queen, kind of like, it's interesting. It kind of reminds me of xenomorphs, except they're not catching people and then bringing them back for the queen to feed on. They're catching people and bringing them back to their, like, lair or hive, or whatever you want to call it, and then stringing them up in front of an egg so they can get a face hugger on their face, and they slide that cylindrical tube down their throat to impregnate. The whole time I was thinking, I said, should I say this? Or should I keep this a little bit more PC? Whatever. That was PC. That was scientific method, like scientific way of saying it. But it kind of reminds me of that. Anytime I hear like drones or something, except these things aren't taking live people there, they're killing them and taking, I guess, the liquid they've drawn out of the person and taking it back. And I'm assuming giving it to the Queen since they're feeder drones. But I'm curious. I was thinking, are these things just nocturnal, or the sunlight actually hurt them, like vampires from myth? But anyway,
discovered that civilians native to several isolated villages in vicinity of Hoya Forest have actively provided human sacrifices to SCP-2191
wow,
as a means of minimizing seismic
oh well,
activity.
yeah, I guess it's like they keep doing. It's like if it don't eat
This
for a
is
while,
interview
then
1977.
if it doesn't eat for a while, it causes a giant earthquake, and at least 1,000 people disappear. Well, I think they said once, was it 1,500 people disappeared, or 1,500 people they said were killed, but 1,800 bodies were never found, or something like that. But yeah, I guess if we sacrifice, I don't know how many people they sacrifice. Did it say how many people? It just says human sacrifices. So let's just say they sacrifice 100 people, and they only have to do that every few years or so, because those seismic events are pretty spread out. So they can sacrifice, because you can't do it every year in a bunch of people, because it would be no people left. But sacrifice about, I guess, 50 people, maybe. I don't know how much it would take, but to keep thousands of people from dying, then I guess that's okay. I mean, it's weird. I was like, find a way to kill this thing quickly.
Playing log now.
Interviewed Draga Negrescu. Interviewer Dr. Jude Love. Forward. Draga Negrescu is a village elder and midwife, 96 years of age. From
Damn, old as
she
fuck.
has proven knowledgeable with regards to the folklore and traditions associated with SCP-2191 and claims to be a descendant of the Solomon Nari. What can you tell me about the temple?
It is where the mother resides. Like a queen, she sends her faithful bees to collect nectar. Like good beekeepers, we help the hive flourish. As you now know, it is best for all that we are allowed to continue our sacred duty.
Who is the mother?
Mother.
The mother was once a princess, the most beautiful daughter of the Blood Empress. The great Sarkic, sorcerer king of Ariton, sought to conquer her as he did the domain of the Blood Empress. He claimed that as was his right, and she became his favored concubine. In time, she came to worship the great Sarkic, just as we, who hold to the old ways do. She begged to bear his children, and the great Sarkic blessed her with his sacred seed. The mother swelled with
Sound
joy
creepy as fuck.
Here she was planted, and here she grew. We, like the pale ones, must keep her fat and satisfied. The pale spew the nectar into her many mouths, and her brood suckle upon her teats and grow strong.
Oh, okay. Then they feed on her.
One. Her earthen womb swells, and soon she will rupture. All around you is tinder for the gods.
That sounds fucked.
And this is a
I would
statement
almost, like,
from the O5 Council.
Move from this
So,
area.
listen up. There are some who wish to believe that the Foundation has never, nor will ever, cater to the designs and desires of an anomalous entity. Foundation efforts to contain SCP-2191 are now thought to have inadvertently led to the deaths of approximately 40,000 over 45 years. The obvious choice would be to neutralize the threat, and we've tried.
Yeah.
The number of
figured.
civilian and Foundation casualties being well beyond acceptable numbers. In order to contain the larger threat, we must allow it to feed. We are aware of the offense caused by this procedure. This is not the first time, nor will it be the last, that the Foundation has been forced to commit a lesser evil in prevention of a greater. We do believe that, in the end, our current method is the most preferable, with regards to both ethics and efficiency.
I get it.
We are aware
yeah.
that every sacrifice feeds SCP-2191-3, allowing it and its brood to thrive. But we are not about to sacrifice the entire Balkan Peninsula to neutralize that threat.
Not yet. Like, just they like,
Well, there
should
you
just
go.
nuke it.
It's not often you get to hear from an 05, huh? Wonder which one it was.
Can we just
Yeah, that'll be your
nuke,
homework.
just nuke a tornado?
That'll be
just
fun.
nuke the hurricane.
Actually, you know what? Never mind. I don't want to deal with you guys any more than I have to. Okay. Thank you very much for listening,
Damn.
if indeed you still are,
Like, I don't want to deal with y'all.
and you were all dismissed. Goodbye.
But yeah, that's kind of like a what it say. Or I took a ethics class about. It's mainly about like technology in the modern world, and I took 2 ethics classes actually, because I took one and then changed my major, and there was another one which I technically didn't have to take, but it was very similar to the one I had already taken. Plus, it also counted towards my grade, so I was like, oh, well, I could just take another ethics class. That'd be one of my credits. Instead of it was some other class that was. It was like, I don't know. It was some like exploring Chicago, some shit. It was like, and what I did find out later that you had to take that class. All first year students had to take that class, which didn't make sense to me. It seemed like a way of just trying to get money out of people. But it was a class where, you know, anyone who's taken like I also did in like a psychology class I took years before that, where, you know, it's like utilitarian, like what's the word I'm looking for? It's like not puzzles, but like circumstances, I guess you could say, where it's you standing at a switch and there's 2 tracks. They got real detail. They say you tied up, you got one arm, you can control the switch, and it switches the train from one track to another. Then it has a bunch of different scenarios where it's like, okay, one track is one person, the other track is 5 people or 6 people. Sometimes it changes. And you can switch the track to kill one or the other. And what do you choose? And most people choose the one. I've had some people like, well, I choose the 6 because I don't know, because they start overthinking it. Like, well, I don't know who the 5 or 6 people are. They could be bad people. And then I heard like, well, the other person could be bad too. Like, he said, ignore all that. Stop. He said, you're overthinking it. It was like they're just people. You don't know them. He said, I probably should have put that to think that you don't know these people. And then they had another scenario where it's like, it's an adult. Let's say it's your significant other, so it's your wife or husband on one track, and then 6 school kids on the other track. Hey, who do you pull the switch for? And then, you know, because of course it gets more and more complicated and then more and more personal as the decisions keep going. And it's like, there are, and then they have like, they have one was like, well, you don't know, it's an adult on one track, you don't know them, and it's 6 kids. What do you do? It's a, they did a scenario, what was it? It was, it's 6 adults that stole, that like owners of a company that stole people's pensions or some shit. And on the other track, he said it was Jeffrey Dahmer. I like this teacher's having way too much. This professor has way too much fun with this assignment. He's like, "What do you choose? What do you pull?" And I don't remember what I think I said because I think I said Jeffrey Dahmer because I feel like I would say because I would say Jeffrey Dahmer. 'Cause like, yeah, those 6 people are bad. They messed up the pension for a bunch of other people. But this person's a homicidal killer that eats people and would have kept eating people if they hadn't caught. So I was like, yeah, these people, they fucked up these people's lives. One thing, these people can be sued. Especially they found liable for shit. They can be sued or sent to jail and stuff like that. Jeffrey Dahmer can be sent to jail too, but if he can, unless he gonna get sent to jail right then, like I don't know. I know what Jeffrey Dahmer did. You said what these people did. I feel like Jeffrey Dahmer. I'm gonna let Jeffrey Dahmer die and save these 6 assholes that fucked up people's pension. But I guess it reminds me. It makes me think of that. Was like, well, we can keep sacrificing because this thing keeps causing seismic earthquakes and killing thousands of people anytime it gets really hungry. Every when years go by, or it didn't say anything about it spreading, but it's already tendrils can go. What is it? 600,000 kilometers or whatever. So I'm like, it can go pretty fucking far. Like unless you block off that whole area, and if it doesn't grow, it didn't say anything about it growing, but it can still cause giant earthquakes. And like you said, unless you're gonna nuke, they drop a nuke on that motherfucker and irradiate that whole area for thousands of years. He's like, well, we don't know if we're ready to do that. Which is funny because the world we live in, a bunch of different superpowers, particularly the United States and Russia, have dropped multiple nuclear bombs in areas and irradiated the ground. It's going to be radiated for thousands of years. And some of them have been near people, or the winds changed and infected and gave radiation poison to people. People died of cancer. So, like, what's really the difference? Whether what they do. Like, I almost feel like they just want to contain it, because secure, contain, protect, but the contain part is before the protect part, and the secure part is before the contain part. So you can see what their priorities are. They ain't like the global coalition. What is it? Is it GC? But I can't think. If it's GCC, I can't think what other C is. Global Coalition. But the other organization that is about, this isn't about securing and protecting and securing and containing these things. It's about securing, killing these things, and protecting. So they should be called the SKP. Secure, kill it, and protect the people. But yeah, this was good. I enjoyed it. It's interesting. I always find these interesting when because you have some of these stories where the SCP Foundation is like, well, we want to find out more about it. So they could just destroy it. The SCP, some of them are like basically indestructible, but they could destroy some of them, but they don't, because they want to try to understand it or see how can they use this to maybe better humanity or something. But then some of these stories were like, you can't use this thing to better humanity. You can't do anything with it. It's basically a parasite that just feeds on people, and that's it. It don't even feed on animals. It's like, I want humans, and that's it. So you just have to block off this area and pretty much let, I don't know if they just letting the locals handle it, or, I mean, well, as far as like defeating, or they sending in, I imagine it's the SCP Foundation. They probably sending in D class in there as well. But you gotta imagine you're gonna run out of D class sooner or later, like, because the way the SCP Foundation just kind of throws away those D class personnel, like they just throw them in and they get horribly murdered or disfigured or turned into shit or ripped in pieces. They just throw them out. They don't even give a fuck. They even killing themselves. Like, oh, if you don't follow my orders, you're gonna be terminated. So, and it's not like they just do that to threaten them. They actually, if you don't do what they say, they would just terminate you. So it's like, how do you would think you start running out of prisoners? Like the Running Man, the movie. You guys seen it? Where I haven't read the book. What's that called? I know it's based on a book, but I can't remember. It was Stephen King. I haven't read that. I don't think it was called The Running Man, but I'm not sure. But at least in the movie, I've seen that, where they were running out. They pretty much ran out of like criminals, even though it was still like people, like, I'm talking about criminals that had been arrested and were in prison. So they ran out, and they was like, we ran out of people. It's like, who? Then they had to start scraping at the bottom of prisoners they don't really want, because like these people don't have the stamina, they don't have the look that we need, because it's still television, so you gotta have a look. You can't just be any of it unless you have a real appealing voice. You're either really charismatic or you have something else. But usually, one thing that'll get you in, if you don't have any of the other things, like a personality or a voice, or you can sing some other talent, and you got looks, that'll get you in. But and then of course they got Arnold Schwarzenegger's character, and because oh, he's great. Plus he was a military prisoner, because they weren't supposed to even allow him to go, because they don't get military prisoners. But then he was able to do something. He said, well, they caught his friends that he was in prison with and said, hey, if you don't go on the Running Man, they gonna go on in your place. So he volunteered to go. So that they said the government doesn't send military prisoners, but if they volunteer, they can do that. So he volunteered. Then he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna send your friends with you anyway. Because we can't just have you. So we're going to have some other people, because somebody got to get killed. Even though Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger would have died if his friends weren't there. If you've seen them. Maybe I'll watch that one. But anyway, hope y'all enjoyed my reaction. And if you did, make sure you hit that thumbs up button down below. Make sure subscribe if you're new here. Hit that bell. You'll be notified when I upload the videos. Comment down below. Share this video. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.